like literally right before the season began, like I ended up hurting my knee. I was given the option between 2 different surgeries, whereas one I would be out for a month, then the other one I could be out for possibly a whole year. Where it's like, dang, like I really just worked so hard for my senior year, and now this is coming up and I don't know what to do. And what I did was I just continued like strengthening my knee. Like I didn't believe like, oh, I'm not gonna ever be the same player. Like I wanted to be better than what I was.
Shorties, one vanilla and one cinnamon. I got 2 shorties, one vanilla and one cinnamon. Both bad, both teams, yeah, they cinnamons. Everybody put your hands up, cause it's a robbery. For all them years that I was broken, living in poverty. Little baby didn't have a dad, she say I'm fatherly. Now when I'm in it, she say I just hit the lottery. She tryna kick it like the captain of the soccer team. I don't bother these hoes and don't let these hoes come bother me. I don't bother these hoes and don't let these hoes come bother me. I got 2 19s with extendos and no hesitate. Nigga act up and be just coming for your self-esteem. But you don't want no beef, so it ain't bitch to that extreme. I hit the club and do my dance cause it's my favorite song.
Summer Hemphill, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Summer, tell me a little bit about your early life growing up. Like, what part of the city did you grow up in? What sports did you play as a kid? What was your family dynamic? Because you have a huge family, so just tell me about that.
Okay, so I grew up on the east side of Buffalo, went to school, Bennett Park Montessori, and then I heard about the performing arts tryouts. So I gave it a shot, tried out for dance. As far as sports I played as a child, softball was my main. That's the only sport I really loved back then. Yeah. My brothers, they played football, and we would always be on the field. Whenever they finished practice, I would make sure like I'm out there playing too, fumbly, rumbly, tackle alley. I was playing everything. I was a tomboy. You couldn't tell me anything.
Now it's called fumbly rumbly, right? It's called fumbly rumbly.
It was. I don't know what it's called now.
In other places, they be calling the game
yes,
like
no,
crazy
that's true.
names. I always say that on Twitter, like, what do y'all call this? It's definitely fumbly rumbly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
Your parents was probably going through it. They probably be like, get up out of there. Let me hurt my daughter.
Right.
Nah, that's the thing. Like, they didn't, like, playing with the other boys, like, they didn't really think of, oh, she a girl. Like, I was like, don't, like, play me and think, oh, you can't tackle me or you can't do this. I'm like, I'm with it all. Like, I'm here to play.
But if somebody tried to go all like tackle you with all their strength, like would your brother step in and be like, yo, you gotta chill out, bro? Like, that's
of course,
my sister.
no. Even though he's the younger sibling, yeah. I'm older than him by 3 years. Like he will always he would definitely have that like protective thoughts about me and stuff like that when it got to it.
So were you ever running kids over? Like,
that's the thing. Like I could throw the ball. I was very athletic as a child. So it's like the parents would be watching me throw or whatever, and they'd be like, they would tell my dad, Willie, they would be like, Willie, like, sign her up. Now we like, Dad, please. And he was like, no, my daughter's not playing football. And I'll be like, we had a hoop outside, which was like the closest I had to like playing organized basketball as a child. All the kids from the neighborhood would come over. We had a trampoline in our backyard.
So you had the fun house.
Yeah.
You had the fun house growing up.
We did. It was the fun block though. Like we had a lot of kids on our street, so a lot of the kids from the other streets around the corner would definitely come over and want to play on our street.
So when you got to PA, is that when you tried to first join like an organized team?
It's crazy because going into 7th grade, like I had no thoughts on playing basketball at all, literally. And I remember I heard about the tryouts, but I wasn't prepared. This is actually embarrassing. I wasn't prepared at all. And I was like, well, I don't want to miss a tryout. So I just like tried out whatever I had on. So I'm like, the next day I came prepared though, because my friends was like, you got to try out for basketball. I'm like, I don't have nothing to wear.
Yeah, what did you have on? What did you have on?
We just gonna leave that at that.
We should have had a picture. That would have been crazy.
No pictures. Thank God there's no evidence.
PA is a special situation where you have the 5th through 12th grade in terms of like Buffalo Public. Right. So how important was that for you to be able to play in an actual high school? Like even if it was just starting with JV, how important was it to do it in 7th grade?
Being exposed to like the high schoolers, I would say it helped us, at least myself, like mature faster on and off the court. So it made me want to work harder because I'm very competitive.
When did you first go up to varsity?
My 8th grade year, that was when my coach, the JV coach and the varsity coach, Mr. Ikiazi and Ms. Lawson, spoke to me and were basically saying, like, we think you can play varsity, but we won't do it without your permission. Like, you will be without all your friends. You'll be playing with the high schoolers. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then, like, that's fine too. And then I was like, there's no way I'm saying no to that. Like, I would love to play varsity.
So what made you say that though, versus like, oh, I want to just, because you tried out because your friends were going to try out. You know what I'm saying? You just wanted to be, you know, with the group and have fun and stuff like that. So what switched to where you were like, nah, I want to go with the seniors and the juniors and play with them? Because that's a whole different dynamic of kids. So what switched in your mind that made you want to go do that?
I would say basically, like I said, I'm very competitive, literally in everything that I did. Like, even back to when me and my little brother would just be outside playing football or catching, like, I would make sure, like, oh, you threw the ball that far, I'm about to throw it farther than you. Or you ran that fast, I'm make sure I'm running faster than you. Like, once I started on JV, I fell in love with the process of getting buckets. My 8th grade year, I was like, that was my aim, where I'm like, JV is cool, but I think I can go a little harder, and that's when they asked me to do that.
So when did the Catholics come into the fold, like the Catholic schools? Because I know you transferred into O'Hara for your junior year. So like, when did those private schools come into the fold where they were like, hey, we need you to come run with us?
So that was the summer after my 10th grade year, where it's like, it was honestly not in any of my plans, where it's like, after I'm finished with my 10th grade year, I'm about to go to a private school. Like, it was literally so sudden, like, out of nowhere. The O'Hara coach, Nick O'Neill, well, he came to a lot of our games at Performing Arts because he coached a lot of the girls that was on the team. And he caught a few of my games, and he was like, you're very talented. Like, you should come here where is more exposure for you. And if you really want to, you definitely have a shot at playing college basketball. And I was just like me back then, I was very shy, very to myself. Like, I didn't really understand what he was talking about, where it was like a private school. Like, I don't know nothing about a private school at all. Like, all I know is public schools, and I know private schools cost money, and I know my mom definitely does not have the money for that. So we figured things out financially, academically, and then with the athletics as well. And by the end of the summer, I was enrolled and I was going to O'Hara.
Was O'Hara the only private that was calling for you?
Yeah, because that was the only one.
Like, how much credit? Because I feel like there's a lot of credit to be given to Coach O'Neill, because like, he's at those games. That's huge. And like, look who he found, the co-player of the year in the league. So it's like, what can you just say about, not really about his coaching, because we'll get to that too, but like, what can you say about how important it was for him to be out searching for that next like generation of kids to come play for him?
It means a lot, honestly. Like, Coach Nick, he changed my life. He's like a father figure to me. Like, ever since I met him, he made sure I was straight, like, on the court, off the court. He will always be there for me. Like I said, like, my mother didn't have like as much money, but they made sure like they would take care of me and figure things out for the best of me, because what their goal was to, for every player that they have, they wanted to make sure their parents didn't have to pay for any college tuition, which as a child, you don't really understand that. But like, as you get older and look back, it's like, that's real. And a lot of kids definitely need those type of people in their life.
So when you got to O'Hara, what was the difference in culture on the court?
Well, with O'Hara basketball, literally every single person on the team, we all play at AAU together. We're literally around each other. We're at each other's houses. We're at the coaches' houses. Like, we're just always together, like, nonstop. That was one thing I noticed. And then, two, is that everyone was serious, whereas, like, PA, like, a lot of people just played just to play. But at O'Hara, everybody was, like, serious about ball. Like, and the coaches made sure, like, they pushed us very hard. The workouts were different. They made us run. What
were the workouts like?
They made us run. That's all I can say is they made us run. We were, if anything, we were the most in shape team.
Y'all was in shape.
We were in shape. I remember one time they made us, this was one of my first practices, AAU practice, and they're like, 50 suicides, finished within like 20 minutes or something. And I'm like, what? Like, y'all are doing this? But I'm like, well, if y'all doing it, I don't have a choice but to do it. So I did it.
After that first practice, were you like, yo, Mom, we got to go back?
No, I was with it all by then. I'm like, it's too late. I'm with it. But AAU is really where like you get that exposure for college coaches. So it was like more so AAU, and AAU, we went to so many tournaments. Like I believe at least 10 tournaments, like in one AAU season with multiple games.
Yeah,
so it was
hella games in that one weekend.
Wake up 8 a.m. Playing games.
Get McDonald's breakfast.
Or eating a hotel lobby breakfast.
Yes.
Everybody look forward to the waffle maker. That's the only shit they used to have.
Yep. So
Not the waffle maker.
I'm telling you.
yes, the waffle
Not
maker.
the waffle maker.
The line, you gotta wait in line too.
So tell me a little bit about your AAU, because I know you say you played for not I-90 Elite,
Baseline.
Baseline Elite. Baseline Elite. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
So I started with Baseline the summer going into my junior year, which is very late. That's when the O'Hara coach explained to me what it was. You got to play. I'm like, okay. But like to touch different states where I would have never even imagined, like, oh, I'm going here. Like just to play basketball. Like it exposed me to a lot of different things.
That's awesome.
What about talent-wise?
Oh, it was crazy. Like you walk into a gym, there's like 50 courts. There's 50 courts, there's 100 teams. So it was like a lot of different girls out there playing basketball, all hungry for the same thing that you're working for. So it definitely puts you into a different perspective where it's like, it's this much girls playing basketball trying to get a scholarship. It's only this much colleges and only this much spots open on a team. So it's like, you really gotta like grind it out and work. And whoever you're playing, whatever time you're playing, no matter how early, no matter how late, like you gotta put on a show and play.
Consistently.
And win.
Like every time. So were there ever games where like either y'all got whooped on or just beat and you're just like, damn, like I smoked my chance, like, you know?
I wouldn't say I would ever like, at least for me and my teammates, we would never like get down and think. We lost all the college coaches that were at our game. They're not looking at us no longer. Especially as a college player now where it's like you're around the coaches and you hear about them going recruiting at AU tournaments. And it's like, it's never about like the win, and like coaches do want to see your reaction to when you lose or when you don't play good. How are you going to react? So it's like, maybe if we did have that mindset back then, like to grow up and look back now, it's like, it wasn't really, we were probably sweating over nothing.
So your junior and senior year, when you started taking basketball like real serious, what habits changed for you when you actually took when you were like, oh, I'm about to go play college? Like what changed for you?
Like my training, like outside of practice, outside of games, I would go and train Mark Price, Q, Quinn Redfern, Macho, Royal. I would go, and then my coaches, of course, Sean, Vern, Nick. I would definitely be working out. I would
like
always 7
workouts a day. You're like 7.
No, not in a day. But those are all the people that I was basically working with.
Right.
I wanna dive into really quickly. So for some background here, I went to performing arts and I graduated in 2011. So our paths crossed, and I was in 10th grade, probably when you were in 5th grade. So we always noticed, like, you know, when you're going through high school, you see the younger kids coming up. And Summer always stood out because she was just taller than everybody across the board. We were talking about that before she came in. And it was one of those things where, like, the coach saw something in you where it was, like, generational talent. She pulled you aside, basically, and told you, like, you're going to play varsity ball. And, like, for the first time in our school's history, our girls' basketball team is going to play in sectionals. That's a huge thing. I mean, I don't know anybody else who like was ever pulled to the side and said, because of you, like we're basically gonna like start a new like culture in our entire school. I mean, and that's something that I don't want to overlook, and the humbleness is awesome. I love it, but like that is amazing. Like I think that's one thing that, you know, looking back now, where you can say to yourself like, wow, like, and you recognize it. They pulled me to the side and talked to me about it. Like, do you want to do this? And it's like, yes. And you made that decision in 8th grade to play varsity ball, which is, I mean, not a lot of kids are doing that. And only the select few are, to where you get pulled aside. Like, looking back on it, how do you feel that a coach saw you and said, this is what we're going to do with your future? And if that didn't happen, how do you think that would have affected like the next level?
Well, I'm grateful for it, honestly. Like, there's been a few people in my life, like a handful, where it's like I may not see my potential, and I feel like she was the start of that for my basketball career. So definitely give Miss Lawson her flowers, whereas everything that has happened from PA up until UB, where I'm at now, like she has laid like the foundation, whereas as far as like believing in myself and seeing something different in me, because where that conversation like sparked something where it's like, oh, maybe you do need to take this serious. Whereas I started taking it serious, but I didn't, it was kind of late where I began taking it serious compared to like other hoopers. I'm thankful for her pulling me aside, Mr. Rikiyazi pulling me aside and having that talk with me and just basically telling me like, you have permission to be great here and don't be afraid of that.
There you go. Like I look back on that and I was like, wow. Like, cause I graduated high school and our girls team, we didn't go to sectionals. Like, so I was like, wow. Like, and they were decent. Right. But then you look back and a couple years later, I always went back and looked at, you know, cause the freshman guys I was telling you, they were all like over 6'2". Our smallest guy was like 6'2" as a freshman. And you look back and you go back and I see you playing in the games and I'm like, wow, that's Summer. Like, you know, she's 9th grade now, 10th grade now, playing varsity ball. Like, that's huge. And you were like the focal point. Like everybody's like, we have to play around Summer. We have to, the coaches on the other team have to make sure they know where you are at all times. Like that's, I mean, like a lot of us don't get that type of like feel for the game, right? So talk us through like how you felt like when you got into a game and the coach is like, make sure you know where she is at all times. And then you started to realize like your competitive nature starts like showing, and then you just start dominating a game where I'm looking in the game, I'm like, okay, she's got a left hand, she's got a right hand, she's got this move. And then you start seeing the people that were training you and showing you different things. Like you see certain aspects of their game come out in you. And like, just walk us through like how that kind of like how you see that.
I didn't have no left back then. I didn't have a left until my junior year, senior year. I didn't develop that, but like to realize that other people look at me as like a star player or whatever, I wouldn't say I would necessarily like pay attention to that. It was more so like all I cared about was winning, and I still have that mindset now. Whereas like whatever I got to do for my team in order to win, I'm willing to do it all. Like whether it's I have a minor role, a major role, whatever it is, I'm willing to do it. You can try and stop me. I might have an off day where you actually could probably stop me, but my mindset will always be like, I'm very competitive. Like there's no way you're about to out-heart me. No way.
For sure. And all that hard work eventually got you first team All-Western, co-player of the year. So like, how did it, when you got those awards, cause like, I don't know about how it was back then, but I swear when these awards come out now, like people be bent out of shape. Like first team, third team, fourth team, this kid isn't here, that kid isn't there. And it's like making those teams is tough. Mm-hmm. So after all that hard work you put in, how did it feel to, when you opened that newspaper, however you got the news, how did you get the news? And how did it feel when you got that co-player of the year?
I believe my junior year, I might have made third team, I want to say. And he was kind of upset about that. He was like, that's bull. Like, if you know him, that's all he say, that's bull, that's bull. But I made third team, and then my senior year, I made first team, which was cool. And it was just cool to be around like all the other hoopers from other schools, because it's like, I may have not played against them, but I've heard about them or I've watched them play. And it's like, it wasn't necessarily like a weird experience, but it was like surreal, where it's like, we're all like putting off for the city in a way. And it was cool to be around people like that.
Who's one person that stood out to you on those teams? Like when you were a senior and you made co-player of the year, like obviously your teammate was the other co-player, but like if there was one other person that you could name that'd be like, that was the one person that we made sure we paid attention to, who would that be?
Well, we never really played against her, but Erica Martinson was like the real deal back then. Still now, she's still hooping. But she was nice back then. That? I believe she won my senior year. She won the player of the year, and her team did really good. But she's a bucket. So
when did colleges start calling you?
So after my first year at AAU, colleges, a lot of colleges started calling me, but me, I was very shy back then. I just didn't feel comfortable talking on the phone. And I would sad to say, I would sometimes like just let the phone ring and just be like, I don't want to go through this process. Like college or not, like I'll figure something out. But looking back on it, it's like, I wish I could just yank myself up and be like, girl, why are you scared? Like, just talk.
What's like some advice you would give to somebody who's going through that recruiting process now? Like,
I would just tell her, just take a few deep breaths and whatever happens, happens. Like, don't always think negative. There's always some positive and good outcomes to every situation. Even if it is bad, like one door closes, another one will always open. So it's like, don't be scared to have a conversation with people that you may not have had a conversation with before. Like, that's what life is about. Like, that's how you meet new people, gain new connections. Everything is all about relationships with other people. So I would say, like, just basically stop being shy because it's not going to get you anywhere.
pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up the phone. Was there any like big colleges that left messages that you're like, damn, I should have picked that one up?
No, not really. I know like Akron called me, and I only liked Akron because LeBron is my favorite player.
Yeah.
Like my favorite all-time player. And obviously he's from Akron. So I'm like, Akron? Like, oh shoot, like that's where LeBron is from. Like, I like them. And it's crazy because Akron is in UB's conference. Mm-hmm. So it's like the irony within that.
So tell me more about the whole like SAT situation. Did you end up taking them? Like, how did you get around? How did you like deal with that? Because you said a lot of them were pushed off because you didn't take the SATs.
Yeah, because it was late for one. Like, it's not really like heard of where like a senior would get a scholarship their senior year and get offered, at least in my situation. But I didn't take my SAT until my senior year, which was very, very late. And by then, like all the colleges that were in contact with me, like had already stopped. On top of me, like ignoring phone calls for whoever. On top of me ignoring phone calls, that kind of played into the situation as well. So
how did you end up, I guess, linking with Coach Jack? So what happened with that to where UB came knocking on the door with you?
Nick had told me, and I believe Coach Jack told me that they were looking into me before I knew, but they like came to a few of my games and they were just like, nah. But then one summer, I was at my brother's summer league game and she was at her son's summer league game. And I had walked in the gym looking lanky as ever. And she's like, do you play ball? And then I was like, yeah. And she was like, who do you play for? What school? Who's your coach? And then I was like, O'Hara, my coach is Coach Nick O'Neal. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna be in contact with him. And I was like, okay. I believe they didn't have any scholarships left, but a girl ended up leaving like mid-season. And she came to my game in February of my senior year, January or February, in Rochester. And she came and watched us play Bishop Kearney. And I just balled out that game because Coach Nick, he came up to me before the game and he's like, Coach Jack is coming to this game. You better ball out. She's coming to this game. She's coming for you. So you better make sure you do what you do. And I'm like, okay, I got you. And I balled out that game. And after the game, she came up to me, she spoke to me, and she offered me right on the spot. She was like, wow, we would like to give you a full scholarship to UB. And then I was like, okay, thank you. Then I ended up going to a few of the games, met with her at her office and stuff like that, where I ended up committing.
So she got the scouting report. She was like, she don't pick up phones, so I'm going to her game. I'm pressing her right after the game. I'm eye contact. We offering you a scholarship to UB. And then she read the scouting report. That's crazy though. So like that was earlier in the season if it was January. So like did you, when she offered you when you went home, were you like, oh, for sure that's where I'm going to go? Or how long did it take you to not really commit with her, but like commit with yourself? Like that's where I'm going to go.
That was really like my only option. And Nick, he was telling me, he's like, you going there. I'm like, I guess I'm going there. Like,
that's what's
I'm
up.
cool
You
with
got
it.
somebody that's pushing you and in your corner that wants you to succeed. I mean, you know, it's Division I basketball. It's amazing. You know, not a lot of people in Buffalo are going Division I. So that's huge. Like they usually scout outside of our city to get people to go to D1. So
yeah.
Literally your freshman year, they had like 4 people from Australia or something like that.
Our
right?
Aussies,
Like, bro,
I love my Aussies.
They go worldwide in recruiting. I was looking at that, I was like, yo, they got people from Melbourne and like.
They don't sleep on them though. They ball.
No, for sure. I know. I'm just saying, like, that's how far their radar is. Like, they go all the way, like, literally other side of the planet, let alone looking in Buffalo. Like, I was like, there was 4 players from Australia. I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, what was going on in Australia that year? They just had a class of hoopers. So did that, like, when she gave you that offer, was it like a weight lift off your shoulders? Because was it like, so your senior year, was it like, I got to make it to a college team or bust? Or was it like, I want to play college basketball, but like, if not, it's not really that big of a deal?
I would say back then, like I wouldn't say my sight was set on college. Like I really didn't know what was next. Like me, if you know me, I'm not a big fan of school. So it was like, I went to school from pre-K to my senior year. It's like a lot of people take breaks and then go to college. And I was just thinking maybe that might be my story. Maybe that might be me. But by the grace of God, like everything fell into place, right? Being at the right places at the right times, meeting the right people at the right times. And I'm thankful for all of it taking place.
So when you got to UB, like what was that culture switch like? Because you go from public to private and you already see like that first practice, they trying to kill you with 15 suicides in however many seconds. So when you got into the D1 culture, like, was that like another switch that flipped for you where you were like, oh, hold on, this is for real?
Mm-hmm. I would say, well, Coach Jack and Coach Nick, they definitely had like a similar coaching style as far as like on the court. Like Coach Jack does not play about our legs. Like she taxes our legs. We would have to do gassers. Like we would be on that football field.
What is a gasser? That sounds crazy.
It's something on a football field that you don't want to know about. But we would have to do that, and everything would have to be like within a time limit. So it's like if you didn't make the time that you were supposed to make it in, it doesn't count. You got to redo it.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, and we will be out. It's not at 2 p.m. It's at 6 in the morning type thing. It was like the army. It was like the army.
No, 6 in the morning.
The sun not even out yet. Like
what are some things that just really helped you, or some people that really helped you get over that hump of like really getting comfortable on that D1 level?
I would say what helped the best is my teammates. Like our teammates, because it's like we're all going through the same thing. So it's like you have no choice but to lean on each other. We're around each other so much. I thought in high school at O'Hara, I was around my teammates a lot. Once I got to college, we was always around each other. And my freshman year, especially like my other freshmen, Tessie, Lala, we were always around each other. We dormed in the same room. So it was like those experiences that we went through, we would definitely be talking about it, joking about it after the fact when during the time it's like we wanted to cry or our body was hurting so much because you added lift into the equation as well, lifting weights. We weren't doing that in high school. Right. Like I was kind of touching weights, but I still had like little lanky 2-pick arms and legs. Like I didn't really have no muscle to me. So it was like once we got into that, leaning on our teammates was what got us through a lot. Definitely, I think what happens nowadays is a lot of players like lean on calling their parents, and now their parents is like, what's going on with my baby up there? Like, what you doing to my baby? And it's like, nah, like you got to go through it with your teammates. Like, You can't lean on your parents because they're not here going through it. They didn't get the D1 scholarship to go play basketball. Like they probably don't know nothing about it. Whereas your feet are where you are. Like you gotta get through it. And it's hard. It's not easy at all. Like it's definitely a lot of too much. I'm a little traumatized, but nah, it's definitely fun. Like looking back at it, like it's so much memories created, like on the court and off the court. And we fell short that year. The next year we made it to the championship but lost, but it was in my opinion it was a blessing in disguise because we made it to the Sweet 16 that year, which was a very dope experience.
Let's talk about that because that was like crazy because at that time too, like the men's basketball was also going crazy. What was that like?
Well,
the first time,
Back then, like I didn't really realize what I was a part of. I didn't really understand back then because I remember we had a watch party and they said our name and I'm just sitting there like, cool, like.
And this is right after y'all lost. This is right after y'all lost the MAC championship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so are you kind of like still
I
stuck
wasn't-
on that?
No, I wasn't. I mean, of course I was feeling the type of way,
Yeah.
but like my coach, like she still had hope for us. So I'm like, okay, like if she's saying we still have a chance, like then I shouldn't have anything to be worried about. Like at least I can feel the type of way after the selection show.
And then what was the experience like actually going to Florida and being in, like, that's a different atmosphere, right? Like those games they mean a lot more than the regular season tournament that you guys do in Florida. Like obviously it's important, but that tournament is like the be all, end all, be all for college basketball. So what was the atmosphere like for those games against South Florida and Florida State?
Nah, it was a dope experience because especially down south schools, they don't really know, like, let alone like UB, they don't really know about Buffalo, period. So it's like, they probably seen our name pop up, it was like Buffalo, like, okay, who we got next? Like, South Florida, it was scary at first. It was a good game, but then like a lot of players that didn't necessarily play a lot, they got their time to shine, whereas like, they're watching our scout and they know like the people who usually play, like, okay, she does this. But when someone comes in who doesn't usually play and they get the chance to shine and show what they can do, that kind of messes up their whole thing, because they're like, who are you? Like, what do you do? And it's like, I'm about to give you buckets. But that definitely helped us playing against South Florida. Then Florida State, like yeah, it was a crazy game, especially to win by the amount of points that we won by, and at their home place as well, because it was a crazy situation down there. Whereas like the men, they were in the tournament, we were in a tournament. The band went with them, so we didn't have a band. So our first game against South Florida, we used Florida State's band.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they were doing everything for us as far as like the chants and all that. And then the next day, it's like, oh,
They're
like we were
going
just
against
cheering for
y'all.
y'all. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, now we gotta go against y'all now. So it was a fun experience. Like that whole year so many memories from that year. But it was definitely cool to be a part of like that Sweet 16 team. It was pretty packed in there. But I know my mom, she traveled there. My little brother, they went down there. Our team, like our parents on the team, as well as like our other family, like they were pretty like well-rounded with us. So we had like a pretty like decent, like probably like 20, 30 people to like their thousands. But it was cool, like just to see like the support. It was cool to see like the support, because Buffalo is nowhere near Florida. It's literally on the complete opposite side of the country. So it was cool.
And when you look back on that now, because obviously, like you say, you're in the moment, so you don't really get to take it all in back then. But now that you look back on it, like how valuable of an experience was that for you?
It was super valuable. Like I said, the memories is what made it worth it. Like, and it's not even necessarily like the memories that were made like on the court playing basketball. Like it was like the drives, the flights, the mess ups. Like those are what like a lot of people, including myself, like remember most about. After games, just chilling with each other, talking. After losses, talking like, what did we do wrong? How are we gonna get better the next game? Like just creating those bonds and that chemistry. Because a lot of us, like, I mean, we're all pretty still like close and cool to this day. So it's dope that we were able to create a sisterhood.
So going into the season after that, so after y'all lost to UConn, I believe Sierra was going to the draft. So it kind of seemed like all things were lining up for you to have like a crazy year. You know what I'm saying? Because you're one of the mainstays on the team. I know obviously some people were coming back on the roster, and then you end up getting injured. So just tell me what happened with that, and just tell me a little bit about that situation. Tell me about before the injury, like what was going through your head, because obviously you're not like, oh yeah, it's like my time now, but like you obviously were looking towards the season like, oh yeah, it was going to be your senior season, so it's going to be my last season. My stats are going up, you know what I mean? They're on the up. So before the injury, tell me like what your mindset was like, and then tell me what happened with the injury.
I mean, before the injury, going into it, obviously my senior year, and I was just like living in the gym like more than I ever have. Just like doing anything that I could to like make sure once my senior season was finished, I didn't have any regrets, where it's like, looking back, where it's like, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that too. Like, I wanted to leave literally no regrets on the table. Like, literally right before the season began, like, I ended up hurting my knee. I didn't tear anything. It was more so like on the bone of my knee. I was given the option between 2 different surgeries, whereas one I would be out for a month, then the other one I could be out for possibly a whole year. Where it's like, dang, like I really just worked so hard for my senior year, and now this is coming up and I don't know what to do. But I ended up getting the surgery where I was out for a month, and came back, was working out, still wasn't feeling like myself at all. Like, definitely could tell like my knee just wasn't, maybe I should have went with the longer surgery. Like, so that's what I ended up doing. I didn't necessarily get too down on myself during that process, especially like seeing how things played out, whereas like 2020, like the pandemic began, COVID started, the season ended for a lot of teams. Like, a lot of teams, there was no NCAA tournament, and that's where a lot of people's stocks rise. There was no NCAA tournament. Our MAC tournament got canceled. So it was like everything like came to a like abrupt end. So I kind of looked at it as like a blessing in disguise, where it's like, there's a reason why I couldn't play that year. I wanted to figure out like what can I do? And what I did was I just continued like strengthening my knee. Like, I didn't believe like, oh, I'm not gonna ever be the same player. Like, I wanted to be better than what I was.
You're just a warrior. You just trust the process. Like, that's, I mean, not a lot of athletes can do that. I mean, I commend you for that. I mean, I none of us really knew that. And I don't think anyone else outside of your basketball team probably even knew that. That mindset, I mean, like, very few have. And to see you bounce back and see you having the progression that you had, like, that speaks volumes. And I hope that something like this can show someone else down the line, even if it affects one person. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's the type of thing that we're looking for, to try and like vocalize and say, hey, listen, like, you know, I did it and look at me now.
Right.
You know? And like, that you've always had that mindset. I mean, even coming in, you said, you know, I've always been a competitor. I always wanted to be the best. I always wanted to do something better than the next person. And just showing that you are able to accomplish that stuff, like, I don't think a lot of people can, you know, do that. And we want to commend you. Like, that's what having you today, like, I mean, you're inspiring me, you're inspiring these guys. Like, I want you to inspire like everybody out there. And this is what that story is all about. All these things that are going on in your mind, like a college athlete, like, just walk us through like that next step. Like, where do you go from there? You get hurt, you rehab it up, and then you get back on the court.
I was so thirsty to play. Like, I was out. I didn't play at all my 2019-2020 season. Then my 5th year, I ended up playing like our last game of non-conference play. And I was so thirsty to play. Like, once the doctor cleared me, I'm like, I'm going. Like, I don't care how I'm feeling. Like, I want to play. Like, I just want to get out there and play. And that second game I came back, I ended up just like stepping on it the wrong way and re-injuring it, where I had to sit out for like a month and a half. And I didn't come back to play until like the last few games of the season. My mindset was more so like God just telling me, like, you moving too fast, like, slow down. I was rehabbing to get my knee stronger, not necessarily like preparing it for basketball. You got to prepare for your sport after your rehab. Like, you got to train for your sport after the fact. And that was kind of like something that I realized during that process, which it was kind of late, but those last games was like me saying like, okay, like, you're good now. I said I was in the gym my senior year more than I ever was. Like, I was in the gym like crazy. Yeah. Like, between like after my injury, I feel like I was in the gym more than ever. Like, it made me like realize the blessing that was in my hand and just to take advantage of what was given to me.
That's awesome.
Did your game change at all when you came back from the injury? Like, did you have to make any adjustments? Like, maybe you weren't as agile or athletic?
I mean, like, I would say prior to like me playing, I would think like, okay, like, I don't think I'm gonna be like as athletic and like jumpy as I used to be. Like, it kind of forced me to like shoot the ball in my workouts and stuff, like actually work on my shot it made me more comfortable with shooting. Either my teammates or Coach Jack would be like, shoot the ball. And I would be like, no, like, I didn't want to shoot the ball. Like, that was also like a problem with me, like growing up where when I first started playing ball, like I did not want to shoot. Like I would like to rebound. I would like to do layups. But as far as like shooting, I wasn't really like a fan of that. I'm like, I'd rather give it to y'all. Y'all can shoot. I'll get the rebound. Like that's cool with me. But it made me more confident in my like shooting. It made me shoot.
Did you ever not go 100% during a game, or you were all the way back? On
like my 6 year?
The 6 year, yeah, 6 year.
Oh, I felt perfectly fine. Like that was the best I felt like since my injury. And it's crazy because like my doctor, he was saying like, you might not be able to play like a lot of minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what's
right.
next.
What was that like? What was that like for you? Because some people like hear that, they might hear that same thing, and they don't see the other end of the tunnel that you came through.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So like, what was that like, and what would you tell somebody who got similar news?
I mean, it's like you're not God at the end of the day. Like you don't got the final say. So it's like I'm gonna keep praying about it. I'm gonna keep working hard. And then we'll see the results when the time comes. Like, and he's just doing his job, so I don't blame him for it. So,
yeah.
I mean, the injury that I had is like, what he was saying is like a lot of people don't play for long. I just put in the work and kept my head down, continue doing my rehab, because probably a lot of people who are injured, they might do their rehab when it's required, but when it's not required, they just stop, which is why like they might be continue getting re-injured. Whereas like, if you have an injury, like you should always like show love to whatever is injured to make sure it's not something that's gonna be reoccurring throughout your career.
So really quickly, I'm probably everybody here is gonna wonder too, but like what's your motivation? Like what's inspiring you to go so hard, to try and be so great? Like where does it come from?
I would say my family, like my parents, my nieces and nephews too. Like I love them. They're like my kids, but not necessarily my kids at the same time. But they definitely like play a lot, like a big role in my career, whereas like my family means like so much to me. And then like to have the opportunity to play for like my hometown, like that means a lot right there. And be able to play like for Coach Jack, because she's an amazing coach, as well as the other staff as well. They're amazing coaches. So to be able to have that opportunity to play for my hometown and play for my family, that means a lot.
So your season comes, and it comes with quite a few personal successes, whether it be your 1,000th point, your 1,000th rebound. So as those successes came, like just knowing through all the stuff you went through, like how sweet were those moments for you? I know you don't always, in a regular season game, you don't always like live in that moment, but like I feel like for you, it had to be so much more special because you went through so much to get there. So just how did that 1,000 point, moment and that 1,000th rebound moment feel for you?
Both were surreal moments because I didn't personally know. Like I would have people come up to me. One of our staff members, Miss Sarah, she would tell me like, "You're about to score your 1,000 point. You're about to get your 1,000 rebound." I'm like, "Oh, I am." Like, "Oh, that's cool," but it wasn't necessarily for me. It was like for my loved ones. Like I know they come to my games, they support. It was more so for them. Like if you would have seen their reactions, you would have thought they scored the 1,000 point and got the 1,000 rebound. Like they care for it more than I, and that's who I do it for. Like to see the smile and the joy that it puts on their face, and for it to be something that they look forward to coming to our conference games every Wednesday or Saturday. It was just cool to like be able to know that I'm able to put a smile on whoever's face that's there, or to know that I'm inspiring somebody else, whether it's an older person, a younger child. Like it's cool.
Tell me a little bit about Coach Jack. She had, I think, the year before you went there, she basically, and during your tenure there, she had like 6 winning seasons. She's in Syracuse now. Like anywhere she goes, they just win. You know what I'm saying? They win big. So just tell me a little bit about Coach Jack, what she means to you, and just how great of a coach, how great of a person she is.
I'm so thankful for Coach Jack. She's truly one of a kind. I would say what separates her from like other coaches across the nation is that, yes, she recruits you for basketball, but when you actually like are recruited by her and you get to know her, you realize that it's not all about basketball at all for her. Like, yeah, winning games is cool and stuff, but she wants to make sure, like, off the court, you're set as well, as far as, like, your character and your academics. Like, those are way more important than basketball to her. I can't say, like, I know too much about other coaches, but I hear from, like, people who play for other colleges where they're like, oh, I wish I could have played for Coach Jack. Like, she seems like she's just, like, the best coach ever. And I'm like, well, she is. She is. That's not a secret. But like you said, like, winning just follows her wherever she goes. So I'm thankful that basketball has brought Coach Jack and I together, and we were able to not only win, but, like, grow through that as well.
And then can you also tell me about, because you played with, you played with a bunch of good players, but you also played with, like, two of the best scorers in the country throughout your 6 years. So tell me a little bit about Dillard and Fair. Tell me about them, like, as players, as people, and what you enjoyed most about being with them, because playing with them is something that not many people got to do. Like, I watched the games, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, she'll give anybody in this stadium buckets.
Literally.
Like, literally, that one, I think it was Miami of Ohio, she literally didn't hit the rim one time. I was like, this is ridiculous, bro. Like, so just tell me a little bit about playing with both of them.
Playing with Sierra and Deasia is truly, like, once in a lifetime, like, type of talent to play with, especially at, like, the Division I level, because it's like, not only can they score whenever they want to, against whoever they want to, they can get their teammates involved, whereas, like, that's hard to find in, like, scorers. Like, it's cool to find a scorer, but find a scorer that can get the team involved too. Like, that's a different type of hooper right there. And then right down the street, I had a lot of tournaments at Rochester where I actually seen Sierra there, and I was like, who is this girl? Like, she is giving buckets right now. Like, she's raw. And then just to end up playing with her down the line, it was crazy. I was like, wow. Like, life is the world is very small. It was cool, especially to see, like, Deasia's growth from her freshman year to her junior year now. Like, she has grown, like, tremendously.
Yeah.
And just to, like, witness that, where it's like, if I was probably in her class, I probably wouldn't have necessarily, like, noticed that, but, like, to be older and see that is very dope to see. To be able to play with Sierra, who was drafted into the WNBA and who, in my opinion, is still, like, unguardable, like, man or woman. She will sauce you up. She will sauce you up. She might make you fall, make you stumble, but she's different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then what do you feel people should say about you from your time at UB? What would your players say about you? Don't be humble. Don't be humble. Don't give me the PR response. Yeah, they'll say I'm great and I'm just team. Nah, what are they gonna say about you?
They will probably say I'm a handful. Like, they see this, if they see this, they'll know what I mean by a handful. But I'm unique. I'm one of one. Like, I'm not perfect at all. Like, I've made so many mistakes, but for my teammates and my coaches to view that and, like, view my bounce back, like, right after my mistakes, is, I know they would say, like, I'm very resilient. I'm a hard worker, and that I'm very unselfish, especially on the court, whereas, like, I just want us to win. Like, if you got to drop 30 points and I just got to rebound for you, I'm cool with that. Like, whatever's going to get us a dub, I'm cool with whatever.
And then what can you say about your parents and, like, how instrumental they've been in your whole basketball journey? They've
just been trusting me. Like they didn't play sports, especially not in college. They played sports in, like, high school and stuff, but as far as, like, college, like, that's a whole new level, and they didn't really know too much about that. So I know a lot of, like, my teammates' parents were, like, heavily involved, where it's like, okay, you're going here, you're going on a visit here, you're gonna work out here, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this. Right. And it's like, my parents never were, like, on that, and whatever I told them, like, they took my word for it, or they would just be like, okay, like, we're trusting you. We're going to put this money down for that. We're going to do this. And whatever happens, happens. So I'm thankful for them just trusting the process and just being able to, like, listen. And whatever I learned from whoever my coaches, my teammates, as far as like basketball and the college and recruiting processes and things like that. And I would relay that information to them, or if they go out, they would try their hardest to like make sure like they were helping me in the best way that they could. And I'm thankful for them for that.
Being a student athlete, I know you said anybody would tell us that you're not a fan of school. But being a student athlete, and now that you got your degree, what can you say on the importance of getting that degree and doing well in school as a student athlete?
The importance of getting your degree is just that it makes it better for your opportunities in the future. Like, a high school degree is cool, but why not go harder for a college degree? Especially when it focuses on something that you would want to study and pursue a career in.
What would you have told, high school Summer in terms of just her grades and just staying on top of them?
I would say don't go for the bare minimum. Like, my problem was like, I would like, obviously like a 65 is passing. I wasn't aiming for a 65, but I would go for like the 70s, anything within like the 70s to 80s range. I'll be like, that's cool. Like, your grades are important. Don't go for the bare minimum. Like, if you can go harder and get a higher grade, then do that. Like, don't cut yourself short. Like, go hard in all that you do, especially like the academics, because once you get in college and high school, like, there's no basketball, there is no football, there is no softball, there is no track and field. There is none of that without the academics. Like, if you're not getting the grades that's required, you best believe you won't be seeing the court, the field, none of that. So your grades are just as important as the athletics that you are pursuing. You just gotta treat it the same way. And like Coach Jack says, your brain will be with you forever. You're not gonna be able to play basketball your entire life. You won't be playing basketball at 70, at least professionally. Like, but you can pursue a career in whatever you want educationally and still be working at that age. So it's like the brain is the strongest muscle. Like, you got to feed into that and not just into the sport that you're playing.
So what's next for you in terms, I know you say you want to try go professionally. So what are some things that you got coming up soon that you're going about? You just in the gym now, staying right?
Yeah, of course. Like, I'm definitely still in the gym. I'm in the process of figuring out agents. That's the next thing.
You're picking up phone calls, right?
Yeah. At this point, I have no choice but to. I realize that. But I've been talking to agents, and then once that's situated, we'll find a team for me, and I'll be out of here.
Cool. And then just tell me about being an all-time rebound leader. Like, finish with that. That's crazy. Tell me about that.
That was cool.
That was cool. That was cool. Yeah, all-time ever leading rebounder. That was cool. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, rebounding is kind of like an art. Like,
what do you think it was that made you such a great rebounder, though? Was it the work ethic, your technique, timing?
I would say, well, Coach Jack, she was a 4 player in college, and she, like, during our guard and bigs workouts, she would always like come down to the bigs and always remind us, like, I was the all-time leading scorer and rebounder for Syracuse for blah, blah, blah years, or 20 plus years. And I'm obviously like, okay, like, I'm playing for like a legend. She would always be dropping gems though. And like, with me, like, I'm the type of player where it's like, most times you only got to tell me things once, like, not even just as a player, like as a person. Like, you just got to tell me things once, and like, you won't have to tell me again. And I just took I soaked up everything that she was telling us like a sponge, and I added it to my game. So without her, I probably wouldn't have even like believed in myself as being like a great rebounder. I'm just thankful for the opportunity that I was presented at UB, and just be able to wear like my city across the chest for the past 6 years and just represent like Buffalo, and to be a part of like one of the most successful tenures during UB, during Coach Jack's time there. I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful for everybody just not giving up on me. Like, even though I probably put a lot of people through some things where they're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't do this. Or it's like where I'm overthinking and just probably like maybe no. I don't want to do all that. And just for all the people to stick with me and all the talks and all the everything, the help, I'm thankful for it all, because without them, I probably wouldn't even be like the all-time leading rebounder. And
I mean, you did it, and we're all proud of you. And I mean, we are waiting for that next story. And when it's all said and done, you know, we're all gonna look back and just be very proud of you.
Thank you.
I hit the club and do my dance cause it's my favorite song. It's niggas standing watching hating, we don't get along. I'm getting to this money like it was a pick and roll. Nigga mad at shorty was a layup, yeah, finger roll, yeah. Fuck the fame, I just want money at the Benjamins. Gotta get this cash flow right, yeah, them dividends. Make moves, make money, yeah, that's M&M's. I got 2 shorties, 1 vanilla and 1 cinnamon. I got 2 shorties, 1 vanilla and 1 cinnamon.